Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teenaccounts.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me, taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
This is so perfect. When you die, is that it? Now let me stop right there. First, every now and then, well, not every now and then, most of the time, somebody that we talk to on the show will provide a kind of a look. It'll make me think of something that carries me through the day. Yesterday, there was a man who was talking about these orbs he saw in Queens. It was one of the most interesting descriptions of something, and I believed everything he said. And there were so many subtexts to that issue. One was, why do I believe him? How do we know people are telling the truth? And does this happen? And it's one of those things where people have an idea. And I love to find how people come up with their various ideas. The only thing I ask is, at least pretend to have something moderately well thought. That's all, as opposed to just saying things. And I remember, I think I told you this. Maybe I didn't, but if I did, forget it. Pretend you've never heard it. I've been, all my life, fascinated by the devil and death and things that make you say, what? And the thing that first got me, and I almost remember, I think I remember. Have you noticed how when you remember something, you don't really remember it necessarily, but you remember remembering it. And you remember the last time you remembered it, and you remember the last time you said or described it. So you're not really sure after a while if it happened. But I do remember this, because my mother and I discussed it one time. The first time I heard somebody say to me, God always was, as a kid, it blew my mind. And I knew I was different from people because I'm saying, wait a minute. Did you hear that? It was, yeah, let's go. I said, no, think about that. How was something always was? I don't know. Let's go. No, wait. And not everybody, but I guess I was different because I thought about that. And I thought about the idea of somebody never having been born, never ever having been created. They asked Stephen Hawking one time, what happened before the Big Bang? And he said, what happened before, or what's south of the South Pole? And now we're talking about universes that are within universes, and then they're parallels, and then we could be in multiple. I mean, the quantum mechanics is it's like God on acid. I don't mean I'm not trying to be sacrilegious, but it's at levels I've never even thought of. So my question to you is, what, pray tell, happens to you? When you go to a cemetery, which has always bothered me, I hate cemeteries. Hate going there. Hate them. Hate the whole thing. It's barbaric. What are those things? Those are bodies. Those are the remains. Remains of what? What do the remains have to do with us? Is that us? No. That's our spacesuit. Well, why do we bury our spacesuit? I don't know. Tradition, perhaps. Superstition, mythology, faith. I don't know. But what happens afterwards? Now, I don't want, and please, and I say this with all due respect, I want to think more of this scientifically and not necessarily religiously. Not that religion is bad. Religion is a wonderful thing. But for you to say, well, in 1 Ephesians, or in 1 Timothy, or if you were to quote some other Bible or some other book, Bible-esque, we're not able to know what that is. So then it becomes a battle of which source can you cite? And I'm not suggesting that's not true, please, with all due respect. But what happens to you? Do you believe in conservation of energy, conservation of momentum, conservation. Nothing is ever, you can't destroy energy. You can transform it. That when you hit the ground, just do yourself, kick the ground, stomp your foot as hard as you can. That motion, that momentum, that force goes on infinitely. It may not be able to be measured. It may not be able to be, but it never stops. There's no such thing. It transforms. Isn't that beautiful? But transforms into what? And one of the things which we have always wondered about is how is it that we could just end and just go away? Later on, we're talking more about other particular aspects about post-mortem views and the like. But it's something which I find to be fascinating. And what I also find interesting is the idea about when people come along and they say things and they're not necessarily religious. So sometimes it appears that the line or the borders between life and death may not be as clean as medicine once believed. I told you the story. There was a murder case I was prosecuting, and it was a second-degree murder. Nothing really that deep. I mean, it was tragic, but the medical examiner was testifying in a deposition, and it was pretty matter of fact, open and shut. And as we were leaving, I was asking him questions, and I said, "Let me ask you something. When does death actually occur?" They said, "Well, there's heart death and brain death." I said, "When does the body stop dying?" He said, "That's interesting. We don't. Well, there's cellular death. There's later on putrescence. There's the breaking down. Is that death? Or is that just decomposition? And why isn't that considered a part of death?" Now, I know people don't want to get into that too much because we don't like to think necessarily about, well, the harder parts of death, even though it may sound silly. My father's friend, Tony, one time we were talking about cremation. And I asked Tony whether he would ever countenance the notion of, cremation. He says, "No, it seems a little too final." But there is a startling study that was published in the journal Resuscitation. I didn't get this month's copy. And it suggests that the human brain, again, can remain active even after the heart stops beating, raising, again, unsettling questions about what people may experience in the moments after clinical death. The research was led by, Dr. Sam Parnia of NYU Langone Health, who has spent years studying cardiac arrest and consciousness. His team interviewed patients who had been revived after being declared clinically dead, meaning that their hearts had stopped and blood was no longer circulating. What many of these survivors reported was extraordinary. Several said that they remembered events that took place around them during resuscitation efforts with incredible clarity. Some recalled hearing doctors speaking in the room, including the moment when medical staff discussed stopping efforts or announcing a time of death. According to Dr. Parnia, these accounts weren't vague dreams or hallucinations. Many patients described feeling fully aware, even though their bodies showed no outward signs of life. Now stop for a second. Do you have any indication of what that means? You're not supposed to be able to do this. Are you or are you not dead? You're not. There was one case where I remember there was a person elevated above his body, he said, and the doctors said his eyes were taped shut. There's no way you could see. He was in a medically induced coma, and he's saying, "Did you use a number 9 Ventahujal screw?" And how did you know that? How do you explain that? Come on. How do you explain that? Is there or is there not death? Remember they said there's only 2 things in life that are certain: death and taxes. Oh, the taxes we know. What about the death? Now, to explore this phenomenon, researchers studied brain activity in 53 cardiac arrest patients treated at 25 hospitals across the U.S. and the United Kingdom. Using electroencephalogram monitoring, which records, of course, brain activity, scientists detected spikes in brain waves associated with higher thinking and awareness. These signals, including gamma, delta, theta, alpha, and beta waves, it's not a fraternity, normally linked to conscious processing. In some cases, there were bursts of activity appearing 35 to 60 minutes after the heart had stopped while CPR was still underway. The findings, think about this, challenge a very long-held assumption in medicine that the brain suffers irreversible damage within roughly 10 minutes of losing oxygen. This is from stopped circulation. Instead, the research suggests that the brain may be more resilient than previously thought. So this Dr. Parnia believes that the surge of neurological activity could explain why many people who survive cardiac arrest report intense mental clarity and vivid memories and the like.